All right, I am Rebekah Kati. I'm the Institutional Repository Librarian at UNC Chapel Hill, and my colleague Anna Goslen is the Metadata Librarian at UNC. And I are going to talk very, very briefly about a project we did to clean up some metadata in the vendor report for our Hyrax-based institutional repository, the Carolina Digital Repository. So I'm going to introduce the problems we found, and then Anna will go into how we addressed them. So the problem. In 2018, we purchased a report from a company that was then called One Science. They listed about 47,000 openly available articles authored by UNC researchers. And the vendor presented this as an out-of-the-box solution to filling the repository. We were really excited to start this work. Our repository had been very student paper focused, and we really wanted to refocus it to faculty scholarship. So we thought that the data in this report would really help us do that quickly. But when we started to evaluate the metadata in the report and really look into it, we realized that there were a lot of errors. We were missing some authors, we were missing some data were truncated, particularly abstracts. And the report also included a script to download PDF files of the openly available articles. And we discovered that the script actually had errors that overwrote the file names, so the wrong PDF would end up being attached to a record. Not great. The report was also missing several key fields. The UNC authors didn't have departmental affiliations, which is a key use case for the CDR. And they also weren't listed in order, and that affected the CDR's indexing in Google Scholar. We also had to figure out copyright concerns. We needed to know which version of the article we were allowed to upload. And we also needed to scale the project because we did not want to have to touch 47,000 articles individually. So we wanted to batch the work as much as possible and then minimize the amount of manual work that needed to be done. So, Anna?
All right, so what we did is we investigated a number of different solutions and other data sources to ensure that we were ingesting the best metadata that we could and meeting the needs of our local repository. And one strategy that we used involved using a data dump from our campus's LDAP directory service to match and confirm which authors were UNC affiliated and confirm their academic department affiliation within UNC. In addition, we used the article DOIs to query Scopus, the abstract and citation database from Elsevier, to retrieve metadata about the articles from a second source and compare that metadata to the metadata in the original One Science report. Some of the One Science articles were missing DOI information, so for those, we were able to find DOIs for some, but others just didn't have that identifier assigned. We did a number of test ingests throughout the investigation of these different strategies and data sources to determine which was providing the best result, including some manual comparisons of the metadata to the PDFs themselves. Next slide. So we found that the Scopus data was a useful way to supplement the metadata that we received in the original spreadsheet. It included authors that were missing in the initial report. It included additional affiliation information and information about the author order. So after a few rounds of testing, we decided to use Scopus as our data source for author information. And continuing to use the initial metadata spreadsheet for other article metadata, such as the title, the journal title, and the date of publication. And in our upcoming ingest batch, we are sourcing additional metadata from Scopus, specifically the volume, issue, and page numbers. So even with improved metadata from another source, we still needed to map UNC department affiliation information to our department controlled vocabulary, which is configured in a YAML file in our repository. And we're doing this in large batches as much as possible to avoid having to map the same information more than once. And finally, we ensured that our script was correctly downloading the associated article PDFs and merged the metadata and the mappings that we had come up with, and successfully ingested the 5,000 articles that our team decided to tackle in the first batch. So we've been developing batch import functionality for the repository. This ingest was done via a script thanks to one of our developers.
Thank you.
So our next steps, we're planning to load more articles in the report. As Anna mentioned, we have an upcoming batch. It's about 22,000. We've batched the work just due to copyright concerns, and we're defining other broad rules for the rest of the articles that will reduce the amount of individual vetting we have to do, but we'll probably still have to do some. And we're also adapting lessons from the first batch. We found a lot of errors by doing test batches, so we'll keep doing that and incorporate more Scopus metadata, since, as Anna said, we discovered this was more reliable than OneScience's metadata. But it still has its drawbacks. We realized sometime between when we load the first batch and then started work on the second batch, Scopus dropped departmental level affiliations, so we'll have to figure it out. And here's our contact information if anyone wants to ask us some questions about the project.